Hey, 7th graders, it's Mr. Allard again, live with another one of your flip lessons. Again, we're on location. It's so nice out. I'm out on my porch, so I thought I would film our flip lesson for tonight out here on the War of 1812. Make sure before you are creating this flip lesson that you have the flag foldable cut out and put in your interactive notebook. Wherever you need to keep the information is up to you. If you want to put it on the back of the flap and you want to put it on the notebook itself, you're probably going to need both because there's a lot of info to get down on the War of 1812. All right, so if I was you right now, I would stop, hit pause, get this in my interactive notebook, and then go from there because it's gonna be a lot of information. All right, here we go. All right, so causes of the war. We've talked a little bit about this in class. First of all, America was trying to be neutral, so this was actually kind of one of the causes of the war as well. America trying to stay out of the wars between Britain and France, they weren't picking a side, and that's going to lead to Britain blockading American seaports. And that blockade is going to lead to a lot of issues that we talked about in class already with Britain attacking American ships, American warships and British warships having battles before war was even declared. And if they would have picked a side, I don't know if it would have changed anything. It may have made the war happen a little bit sooner than it actually did. But by not choosing a side, it kind of made the war happen when it did, if that kind of makes any sense. Because Britain felt that by not choosing a side, America was actually siding with France, and any enemy of, or any friend of my enemy is going to be my enemy as well. So Britain made sure to kind of put the lockdown on American shipping to France, which is going to lead to conflict on the open seas. We also talked about British impressment. All right. Britain is seizing American trade ships and forcing sailors into the British Navy. This is an impressment like we talked about in class where, ooh, I've got some shiny new shoes or I've got the new iPhone. Or, you should be so impressed with me. I'm so cool, whatever. This is impressment is more like kidnapping. And you can see from the picture there, Americans were being kidnapped and forced to work on British warships. Now, we talked about this in class. You had three choices. First choice, become a British naval officer. Second choice, you can see him walking the plank. We'll just knock you off one side, see if you can survive. Third choice is you see the guns and the bayonets, we can take care of you that way. So most of these sailors are going to pick living on a British vessel, hoping that eventually America can come through and kind of take care of things. The other part that was a big problem was Britain was supplying natives in the West with weapons to attack American settlers in the Ohio River Valley. As we talked about after the American Revolution, American settlers are pouring into what is now present-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, these states that were off limits as a result of the Proclamation of 1763. So we talked about the friend of my enemy is my friend. Now we're going to talk about the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the Native Americans did not like that or that Americans were encroaching on their land. Britain actually stayed in many of the frontier forts. They hadn't left many of the frontier forts yet and were supplying Native Americans with weapons to attack um, American settlements, American settlers, etc. Now, this is something that happens to this day. When a country doesn't want to get involved in a war, they may supply one side with weapons. The United States does it today. Russia's doing it today. Things like that. So this isn't out of the ordinary, but America was taking offense to this because they were realizing that one of the reasons they could not put down the Native American resistance was they were being supplied with British um, supplies. Key battles and events, just like the American Revolution started with an invasion of Canada, the War of 1812 is also going to start with an invasion of Canada, and just like in the previous war, this invasion is going to be unsuccessful. All right. I don't know what the preoccupation was with Canada in both aspects, but in both wars, there are going to be an effort to try to win Canada. Most Americans felt that Canada was a logical northern option for expanding America. Most people thought that the Canadians themselves would support Americans trying to liberate them, really taking them over, but that never really kind of came to fruition. In actuality, the issues that Britain had in the American Revolution with the long supply lines and things like that are going to hurt that American invasion. In August of 1814, Britain is going to capture Washington, D.C., and burn the White House and burn most of the city to the ground. By 1814, the war in Europe that Britain was focused on is over, so they're able to concentrate more troops and more soldiers and more Navy vessels to the fight in America. So you're going to see kind of a renewed fighting around 1814 of the War of 1812. Other key battles events. The Siege of Baltimore. This was one of the successful defense America had. They were unsuccessful in defending most of their coastal cities due to our kind of lack of navy. But there's two big coastal cities we were able to defend. One is the Siege of Baltimore at Fort McHenry. We never let the joint force of British soldiers attacking by land and their naval vessels get into the city. We defended it at Fort McHenry, and it's also going to inspire what is going to become the Star Spangled Banner, written by Francis Scott Key. That actually wasn't written as a song, it was written as a poem. Key was on a ship in the bay and was kind of describing some of the things that he was seeing. And this kind of helped that notion of the War of 1812 kind of becoming our second war of American independence. In January 1815, America wins the Battle of New Orleans. Andrew Jackson, who we're going to be talking about really soon, becomes kind of a national hero due to this. And in actuality, the Battle of New Orleans is fought after the war has ended. And earlier, at the end of 1814, the Treaty of Ghent is going to be signed, which officially ends the war. But information of this treaty had not reached the forces at New Orleans. Britain wanted to control that coastal city, perhaps capture it, and then be able to keep it after the war. However, Andrew Jackson and his kind of mixed bag of militia and American soldiers and slaves and pirates were able to thwart the British forces, mostly due to using geography of New Orleans. Effects of the war. First of all, the War of 1812 is really going to end in what is called the status quo, meaning nothing really changed. The status is going to stay the same. There's no real territorial gains. There's no cities changing hands. There's no money really exchanging hands. Basically, both sides kind of think, you know what, this war isn't worth fighting anymore. What it is going to do is it is going to increase American nationalism. It is going to increase pride in our country. For example, prior to this, most people like New York are going to call themselves New Yorkers, Pennsylvanians, etc. You're going to see more references to Americans after this war. It was pretty popular. It was pretty successful. America sees the need to build a stronger army and navy. Having their capital city burnt to the ground is problematic. Being able to defend the Great Lakes was good, but the American Navy was not as good on ocean battles and things like that. So more military preparedness is going to be a big key. American industry and transportation systems are going to grow. It was very difficult for troops to be transported throughout the roads and bridges and things like that. So remember we talked about the canal boom and things like that happening in the 1817, 1819, 1820s. Without the War of 1812, we're not going to see the National Road. We're not going to see the Erie Canal because the thought was if we get invaded again, we can use these canals and roads to transport goods back and forth. Just like with the Embargo Act of 1807, a war is going to kind of stop trade, which is going to cause our industry to grow and the Industrial Revolution to take place because we need to be able to build and supply and meet the demands of our own home people. All right, well, that's our flip lesson for tonight. Um, make sure that you get these notes. Make sure that you're watching and answering the questions on Edpuzzle as well. If you have any questions, hit me up on Schoology, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Have a good one.